So, hello there, and welcome back to another Night of the Movies podcast. I'm Spy Knight, and in these podcasts, I love talking on things, movies and TV, and whatever I want, whenever I want. And in today's podcast, I am reviewing Another Simple Favor. So, let's get into it, shall we? Another Simple Favor is, of course, the sequel to A Simple Favor, which came out in 2018. And A Simple Favor was directed by Paul Feig, who returns in the directing chair for this sequel. And the first film starred Anna Kendrick and Blake Lively in the two leading roles, and they also reprised their roles in this film, alongside Henry Golding, who was in the first film too. And this film, the Simple Favor sequel, titled Another Simple Favor, has a newcomer, Allison Janney, joining the cast. If you don't know who Allison Janney is, she was great in the likes of The West Wing, Juno. She won an Oscar for her performance in I, Tonya. She is a fabulous actress. So, with her attached, I was quite excited about watching this film. Actually, yeah, I was quite excited about watching it. Far more excited than I was thinking I was going to be, because I really enjoyed the first film. I didn't watch the first film when it came out in cinemas. I don't think I even watched it when it first came out on streaming, but it was during the pandemic, maybe just after the pandemic, as the pandemic was, dying down, that I saw this film on Netflix one day, and I decided to check it out, to see if it was anything worthwhile, because I heard some people I follow online talk about how much they really enjoyed the first film, and you know what? I really enjoyed it too. I mean, it was silly, it was far-fetched, and parts of it didn't really work, but I had a really enjoyable time watching the first film, watching A Simple Favor. Then when I heard a sequel was announced, I was like, okay, I'm not quite sure how you can follow up the first film, but sure, because the first film has quite a rounded off ending. It feels like, it's a complete story. It doesn't leave any more open, at least as far as I can remember. And granted, I haven't seen the film for a couple of years, but as far as I can remember, it didn't leave the story open for a sequel, or for the story to continue, So I was a bit surprised when a sequel was announced, and I wasn't full of lots of confidence, because I heard that Paul Feig was coming back to direct the film. And when was the last time Paul Feig made a good movie? I think it was with the first Simple Favor, all the way back in 2018. And Paul Feig has made quite a few films since then, some of which have not made a splash at all. But I heard Paul Feig was coming back to direct, so I was like, okay, let's hope this is his return to form. And I heard that the main two stars, Anna Kendrick and Blake Lively, were coming back, and I was like, okay, that could be interesting, because they're two good actors. So all about Blake Lively, I know there's been a lot said about her in the press right now, with what's going on with some lawsuits she's involved with. I'm not going to get into that in this review today, but she is a good actor. She has been good in things in the past, such as the first Simple Favor. So I was like, okay, that's interesting, you get the two main stars back. But my excitement was decreased when I heard that this film was going straight to streaming. The first one released in cinemas, and granted, it didn't do very well at cinemas. It didn't blow up the box office, but it was met with critical. I can't even speak. Apparently, it was met with critical acclaim when it released in cinemas in 2018, if I remember correctly. So when I heard that this film was coming out on streaming, my anticipation was decreased, because most straight-to-stream movies do not work and are quite underwhelming. Not all the time, you do get some exceptions, some very good exceptions, but a lot of the time, straight-to-streaming movies straight-to-streaming movies, you can tell they've been made for a streamer, and they don't really leave a lasting impression on you. So I was hoping this would be one of the exceptions, but I'd be lying if I said the fact that it was going straight to streaming didn't get me a little bit worried. However, like I said before, I was quite excited. I was looking forward to watching this on streaming yesterday after my busy weekend, and so that is exactly what I did. I sat down to watch the film, quite excited and hoping for the best. And the Google plot synopsis for this film goes as follows. Stephanie Smothers, once again played by Anna Kendrick in this film, agrees to travel to Italy to be the maid of honor for the devious and cunning Emily Nelson, once again played by Blake Lively in this film. However, she soon suspects Emily's goodwill is part of an elaborate plan for revenge. And that's pretty much all you need to know about this film before seeing it. And here's the thing. My biggest takeaway from this film is that this year in the cinema is a year of movies centered around twins. Without giving too much away, but this is the year of cinema that is centered around the same actor playing two different characters in one movie. Early on this year, we had Mickey 17, the Bong Joon-ho film, which starred Robert Pattinson, in which Robert Pattinson played a number of different versions of himself, and then he played two twins within the same room in many scenes together. And then, not too long after that, I didn't watch the film, but there was this Robert De Niro gangster movie in which Robert De Niro played two characters that were in many scenes together. Well, that's what it looked like from the trailers anyway. And then not too long ago, a couple of weeks ago, we had Sinners, in which Michael B. Jordan played two characters. And again, not to go into too many details, but the film has been out for a good couple of days now on streaming, on Prime Video. But there's a certain actor in this film who plays two characters. And I did sit there thinking, God, this is really the year that actors are playing two characters in one movie. This is a year of twin movies, movies centered around twins. So yeah, that was my biggest takeaway from the film, which isn't a great thing. One of my biggest takeaway from a movie is, okay, this is a year that we're getting a lot of twin movies, a lot of movies centered around twins. Then you can tell that my liking of the film, well, it wasn't the highest. Yeah, I didn't think this movie was terrible. I didn't hate it. I didn't even really dislike it. I just thought it was meh. I didn't take a liking to it. I didn't really enjoy my time watching this film the same way I enjoyed my time watching the first Simple Favor. And you might say, well, that's because, you watched it on streaming. Well, I watched the first Simple Favor on streaming. I watched it on Netflix when it came out. Well, yeah, I watched it on Netflix a good couple of years ago now. It may not been even good. It may not even been a good couple of years ago. But the point I'm making is, I watched the first film on Netflix, so I also watched the first film on a streaming service, and I really enjoyed it. But this film, there was just something about it that I couldn't really get into. And I was watching the film thinking, this is proof that not every film needs a sequel. There are some sequels which deserve their place. There's some sequels where, you watch them, you go, yeah, I get it. Like, everybody always goes back to the example Empire Strikes Back. Or you could go to the example Aliens, or Spider-Man 2, or The Godfather Part 2. There are plenty of films that are sequels and earn their place in the story, if you follow my thinking. But I didn't feel that with Another Simple Favor. Because it didn't feel like there was a story to tell. Whenever you get a sequel, it needs to have a story to tell. If it doesn't have a story to tell, then the film's going to kind of feel worthless. And I hate to say it, but a lot of the film did feel worthless. It wasn't a terrible watch. I enjoyed the first half an hour. Anna Kendrick and Blake Lively were fun to watch. They were trying their best with the material they were given. Same with Alison Janney, who was an Academy Award-winning actress. So, of course, which is Academy Award-winning actor, should I say. So, of course, she's going to try her best with material she was given, although I don't think she was given that much to play around with. And the film kind of looked beautiful. I say kind of there. I'm not really talking about the cinematography when I say it looks beautiful. I'm more about the setting, because the film is set in Italy, and there are plenty of scenes and shots in the film. I was like, oh, look at this beautiful setting. The cinematography wasn't great, but I loved the way the film looked, because it was nice to look at. That's, I suppose, a positive when it came to this movie. And there's some eye-catching costume design, which you expect from this film, because there's a lot of eye-catching costume design in the first Simple Favor as well. But yeah, it just didn't feel like the film had a story to tell, and it didn't feel like it needed a sequel. It didn't feel like this film needed to happen. I was watching and thinking, what is it adding to the first film? I mean, yeah, it adds something to the first film that you didn't know about in the first film, but it's nothing which is really going to make the first film any better. And I think that's what a great sequel should do. A great sequel should add something to the first film that makes you look back on that first film differently, like the best sequels do, like Shrek 2 does. Shrek 2 makes you look back on the first Shrek differently, whilst this film does not do that. And I think suffers because of that. Plus, the film is too predictable. I guessed who the main villain was going to be because it's the new big actor joining the cast. Without going into spoilers, it's pretty clear who the villain's going to be in this film, and it's one of the films where there's too many jokes. I mean, there's a lot of comedy in the first Simple Favor, but this film, it feels like everybody gets a joke. It feels like everybody has to have a joke, and it feels like every scene has to have a bit of comedy in there, and if it doesn't, then the scene might suffer. But the reality is, with a film like this, you don't want every single scene to have a joke, and some of the jokes are funny because they were delivered by Anna Kendrick, who is naturally a funny person. If you watch in films like Pitch Perfect, she is funny, and she was funny in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World as well. But she's not, well, she is funny in this film, but the problem is she's given too much comedy. She's given too much jokey lines, jokey one-off lines, and I'm like, why though? What's the purpose of you having a joke here? And there's too many jokes in the film. It was like everybody gets a joke, and at times it did feel like a little bit of an SNL sketch. And I'm not a fan of SNL. I appreciate what it's done. I admire it because it's been going on for 50 years, but I've never really been a fan of SNL. So I was watching some of the stuff in this movie, and it did feel like a bad SNL sketch, which I'd watched on YouTube on like a Sunday morning a couple of years ago, you know. I didn't really think the film was that funny. There was some comedy which worked, but not enough in my opinion. The characters weren't as watchable. They weren't as fun to watch. Henry Golding was really annoying when he was in the film. He's not in the film loads, granted, but yeah, I did not like him in the film. And I remember kind of liking him in the first film. I mean, I remember kind of enjoying watching his performance. And the performances, again, aren't bad, but the characters just aren't that enjoyable to watch. And the story isn't as engaging. The twists are predictable, and when they're not predictable, they're really weird. The end of the film got very, very weird. A little too weird for my liking. And the other thought that kept coming to my mind, and this is the last thing I'll mention, the other thought that kept coming to my mind when I was watching this film was how far has Paul Feig fallen as a director. This is a guy who made Bridesmaids, which is one of the best comedies I have ever seen personally. I love Bridesmaids. This is the guy who directed episodes of The Office, a US version of The Office, and did such a cracking job doing so. This is a guy who directed A Simple Favor. He has directed some really good movies, some which I can't think of off the top of my head right now, but he's directed some really good films. But I think he has fallen as a director, and I think this is proof of that, because it feels like he's just phoning in as a director. It doesn't feel as sharp and as well directed, as stylistically directed as the first Simple Favor. It feels like he made a film, it feels like he made a streaming movie, and not in a good way at all. The film doesn't really work. It's not a terrible watch, and again, it has its moments. It's carried by the two lead performances who do make this film watchable, but it doesn't really leave you with a lasting impression. It doesn't need to exist, and it points to the fact that not every film needs a sequel, and this is proof of that. So yeah, I thought it was and I wanted it to be really good. I wanted it to be at least good, but I can't even say it was that. I mean, it was 2 hours, and it didn't need to be. If a film is 2 hours like this, it's gotta be paceful, it's gotta be stylish, it's gotta be engaging. But it wasn't that. It was far from that. It was a straight-to-streaming sequel. And I mean that in all the ways you don't want it to be. And so, all in all, I'm going to say that another Simple Favor, I'm going to say that it's a 5 out of 10. Yeah, I'm giving it that rating because, again, it had its moments, and I didn't think it was a terrible watch. I've seen much worse straight-to-streaming movies, but it's just, it doesn't need to exist. That's at the end of the day. It doesn't need to exist, and I really feel like the story should have been left with the first Simple Favor, because this is proof, as I've said quite a few times in this video today, that not every film needs a sequel. and that every film needs a sequel. And I kind of wish this one didn't exist. But hey, that's just me. And so, all in all, as I've already said, and I was going to say once more in this podcast today, another simple favour is a 5 out of 10 for me. Anyway guys, that's it for today's podcast. If you have seen another simple favour, please let me know your thoughts on it in the comment section below. And as always, thanks for watching or listening to this podcast. And if you haven't yet, please do click down below and like and subscribe on this podcast, on this video. I look forward to many more videos and many more podcasts coming very, very soon on this channel. As I've already said, thank you so much for watching or listening to this podcast. And I will see you guys again soon. But bye for now. Bye.